So, yeah. Okay, we started a couple weeks ago in Revelation 17, right? And more or less we probably left off around verse 5. We began talking about the subject of Mystery Babylon, and that's why we diverted last week to talking about the New World Religion, which is really the Old World Religion, except we call it the New World Religion, Zoroastrianism.
Before you get too far into that,
Yeah.
I was doing some review because I haven't been here for the list. And I was reading in chapter 8. And this really blew my mind because it says the heavens were quiet for 30 minutes.
Yes.
Now, can you imagine all the people that sang glory, glory, right? And all the angels and all the people in heaven that in the day of the Lord, when the Lord stood, it was quiet. There's no sound in heaven.
Well, that's why a lot of people think that there's no women in heaven.
Now, that was not pre-planned. Not pre-planned.
You all knew I was going to say that, though. You all knew that. I mean,
That was amazing.
okay. Well, did you ever remember or hear my explanation about that? Okay.
Yeah, I just heard it.
Well, that's not prophetic fact. That's prophetic theory. That's theory. Okay. Yeah, big difference. Okay. There's a scripture where Jesus says, if you go to bring your gift to the altar, okay, you bring your gift to the altar, and you remember that you've got something against your brother, or your brother's got something against you, he says, leave your gift, go make it right with your brother, and then bring your offering. Yes. Da-dun, da-dun.
Can I just show you first?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay. So, yep, yeah. So everybody passed. Yay! Yeah, one no out of the group, but everybody else was yes, so. Great. Okay. Yeah, I didn't finish my. Okay, so that's why churches have their, yes. Good thinking. Okay, if there's no questions or anything, anybody make a motion to close the meeting? Okay. 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 All in favor? All in disfavor? Okay. I'm not a parliamentary procedure kind of a guy. Yeah. Dick and Sally, remember Dick and Sally? They bought me a book on Robert's Rules of Order. I've never opened it. There's constantly people giving me books, constantly, constantly. It's just like I don't have time really to read. I'm already reading. So, all right. Okay, so that's why churches, almost every church in the world has a time of greeting. And when you go and shake hands, it gives you time to make things right with your brother. Okay? And I'm trying to remember how the text goes exactly with the silence in heaven. But it has to do with, remember the martyrs under the altar were crying for vengeance. And I believe that 30 minutes of silence is essentially the beginning, where Jesus said, okay, now it's time. I'm going to make things right. Okay? And so he's going to go make things right, and because vengeance is not to the ones who are martyred, vengeance belongs to Christ, right? So he's going to make it right for them. And so that's what that interlude is. That 30 minutes of silence is an interlude, I think, representing Christ making things right.
It says when he opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven for about a half an hour.
Yeah.
And the seventh seal, if I'm not mistaken, starts the day of the Lord.
Yeah. Yeah, without it in my, mind right now, but yeah. So, okay. Might help if I had this. I'm not used to holding two things at once. Okay. Don't ask me to chew gum and walk at the same time. Okay, so more or less we left off here, verse 5. And on her forehead a name was written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and of the abominations of the earth. Okay? So I asked you, what is Mystery Babylon? Remember, we looked at that when we looked at the book of Daniel, and nobody remembered. So I gave you like a really quickie last week, but it took a lot out of me. Remember that? Because we covered a lot last week, okay? Giving you the mindset of what this religion is. And if you understand those basics, again, that is the nucleus of every false religion in the world. Maybe they use different names. Maybe one is dualistic, the other is triistic, or there's some differences, but basically that's exactly what they believe. Okay? And since they all believe that, then the religions can all be amalgamized together into one. The only one that really stands apart is Christianity. So how do you make Christianity fit in? You have to water it down. And that's what we see today. A lot of people watering down the Bible, watering down Christianity. And if you do it enough, it'll fit right in with all those other religions because there are similarities, honestly. So, okay. God's people will bear his seal on their foreheads, just as Satan's people will bear the mark of the beast on theirs. And interestingly, prostitutes wore a symbol of their profession on their heads. And priests wore inscriptions upon their mitres. So it's not really a new thing. It's something that's been going on all the time. A lot of people wear caps too, don't they, with their business insignia or club insignia? I mean, we do the same thing, don't we? Remember that a mystery is something that we don't know or understand, such as the union of Christ and his church. We are the church of Christ. We know his Holy Spirit dwells within us. But there's a union there that is, from our perspective, it is mystical. I hate to use the word mystical, but there are aspects of the spirituality that we don't understand. There's a lot we do understand, there's a lot we don't understand. And so there are mysteries, and that certainly is one. This prostitute seems to work in cooperation with the false prophet because she represents a false ecumenical religious system. Hence the term she sits on many waters. The word Catholic means universal. So in this case, it will be a universal seduction of the world. Okay? When I say Catholic, that doesn't mean Roman Catholic. It doesn't mean Orthodox Catholic. That word Catholic means universal. Okay? So it will be a Catholic religion. But again, we have to be careful that we don't make assumptions. Okay? Okay, verse 6. I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I marveled with great amazement. The harlot is intoxicated from having drunk so much blood. The false religious system has shed much Christian blood throughout the ages, but she's never satisfied, is she? You know. And really, again, I'm not trying to pick on the Catholic Church, but the Catholic Church killed so many Protestants. And then what do the Protestants do? Well, they'll go right back and kill the Catholics, And it's such a bloody mess when we're supposed to be brothers and sisters, and we've got one God and one Bible, and yet people are killing each other. And but then you've got Muslims killing Christians, and the religious system always has killed. You look at Judaism. They killed the prophets and they killed Jesus. That's what they do. These martyrs were Christ's witnesses who preached the gospel and against sin. But the world will become the slaughterhouse of the martyrs, as was prophesied. John marveled or wondered with amazement at her exceeding cruelty, yet also at the patience of God. Verse 7, but the angel said to me, why did you marvel? I will tell you the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carries her, which has the 7 heads and the 10 horns. Now, one thing I just thought was interesting, and this is not prophetic fact, it's not theory, it's speculation, because I'm likening Scripture with a modern day event, okay? But when they started making the euro, and I don't know if they still do it now, but when they started making the euro, representing basically the European common market, Roman market, whatever, can you all see what this symbol is? It's a woman riding a beast, yeah. That's their symbol. And here's one of the stamps. It's an ancient symbol. They decided for whatever reason, hey, let's use this as our representing the European market or European Union. But look at it. It's a woman riding a beast. Now, I'm not into speculation, but that's kind of weird. And I'm glad I heard somebody mention the angel. Can anybody tell me what that is? Somebody said it, but then they were afraid to repeat it. No, didn't I hear somebody say Cupid? Okay, Benita, you don't get the gold star because you should have said it again louder. Okay, I'll leave it on reserve over here for you. But that is Cupid. Because I'm a weird guy and I study this stuff for a living, that's why. That is Cupid. That is, it's a woman riding a... Cupid in the Bible, if you go back to some Bibles may have it in there, some may not, okay? There's a reference to the ancient Jewish people mourning for Tammuz. Does that ring a bell? Tammuz is Cupid. Cupid is also known as, my brain's fried now. Well, anyway, the mother of Tammuz was named Semiramis. And she was married to a very important man in the Bible. His name was Nimrod. And Nimrod built the 7 cities or whatever, and he built the great Tower of Babel. I think I just talked about that on Sunday. And what happened supposedly is before he knew Semiramis, his wife, a beam of light came down on her stomach and she was with child. And supposedly she had a baby. And then what happened is when this baby was... I'm just have to make this up now because I don't know, like 4 years old or something like that. A wild boar killed the baby. But then 40 days later, the baby miraculously came back to life. Now, what does that kind of sound like? It kind of sounds like the gospel, okay? And it's because this was the first counterfeit gospel. Nimrod, Semiramis, and Tammuz. Look it up. Okay, go to your internet, look it up. Yeah, that's something somebody made up. Okay? Tammuz, Cupid, he goes by a bunch of different names. Okay? And right now, my brain doesn't have all the names in my head right now. But, yeah, so that's what that is, okay? Well, I'll tell you, I'm not really sure about the dolphin, but I was just talking to somebody about this the other day. If you look at astrology, what is the symbol for Pisces? Anybody remember? The fish, right? And if you look at the oldest renditions of Pisces, it's two fish tied together by their tails. One fish is going up and one fish is going sideways. The fish going up, and remember how later the church adopted the fish as their symbol? Okay? The fish going up is actually the saved. The fish going kind of sideways is the fish that are of the world. And that's the division between the two. And while I'm not 100% sure, I would imagine that's a reference to that. Okay? So, okay. It's interesting. Can we prove it? No, we can't prove it, okay? Because some of it is in the Bible, but not everything. And so, you got to maybe look at some extra biblical texts, but then you're kind of having to guess, is this legitimate? Is this not, So, anyway. Well, the theory is that the ancient peoples knew the gospel because God taught Noah the gospel in the stars. After the flood, the stars appeared, and he was able to see the stars for the first time. And if you put the astrology symbols, by the way, y'all realize that if you have the constellation Virgo, the Virgin, if you connect the dots, it really doesn't look like Mary, right? If you connect Leo, it's not going to really look like a lion. So you have to ask yourself, well, where do these names come from? They go back as far as the earliest writings, and they exist in every culture on the face of this earth. So therefore, they must have a common source. And what would the common source be? Well, I don't think it started with Satan. Satan's not creative. God's creative, but Satan only twists, right? The source is the Tower of Babel. And I believe that God did because it says in various places in the Bible that God's glory is in the stars. It says that, right? And if you put the symbols in the right order, it gives you the entire gospel story. But then later it was twisted, and of course people make up all kinds of, what do you do when you read your horoscope? You're looking at your good luck or whatever. I don't know what it's called, but anyway. But look at all the symbols. The fish symbol is the church. Virgo, the virgin. Leo, the lion. Who would the lion be? Jesus, yeah. Look at all the symbols and what they mean. You put them in the right... The old astrology things has it in the right order. But then, of course, Satan came along and twisted everything around and perverted it completely, okay? Anyway, let's keep on going. John will marvel or wonder because of the whore's unrestrained wickedness. But we shouldn't marvel at Satan's capacity for hatred and evil, nor should we marvel at God's long-suffering and love toward humanity. Here the angel is about to reveal the meaning of this hidden mystery to John and to us. Okay, verse 8. The beast that you saw was and is not, and descend out of the bottomless pit and go to perdition. And those who dwell on the earth will marvel, whose names are not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they see the beast that was and is not and yet is. That's a wicked-looking pit. I mean, if your house is over that pit, yeah, I mean, the Lake Wales Fire Department is not going to rescue you, believe. It's terrible. Yeah. The time when the beast is not is the time during which he has the deadly wound while emerging from the sea. The healing of his wounds seems to appear at the emergence of the second beast. We've talked about that already, which is the false prophet from the earth. The beast, and for that matter, the whole Luciferian society in which we live, returns with a vengeance and grows and strengthens even more than ever before. He is eventually cast into perdition, which is his doom and fate, hence the term son of perdition. So, the devil's going to hell, in other words, if you didn't catch that, okay? So you could call him the son of hell, because that's where he's going. The Antichrist title was and is not and yet is also really a mocking of God's title, who is, who was, and who is to come, right? It's taking the eternal description of God and rewording it to fit Satan. I believe that we will marvel when we see who is and who is not in the book of life. By the way, there's a lot of different books of life. If you ever do a study on that, and I was thinking about doing a big study on the book of life, there are different books, because when the Bible gives kind of like a little description, the descriptions are not always the same. And so, and then somebody asked me the other day too, well, how do you know you're saved? I mean, the people who one day will stand before Jesus, and say, well, Lord, didn't we do all these things in your name? And he'll say, depart from me, you worker of iniquity, for I never knew you. So how do you really know you're saved? Okay, well, that's a good question. And so I did a lesson on that once before, but I'd like to do like an updated lesson on that, because I think it's a really good subject. And I might also do one like dealing with the book of life, because there's a lot of books in heaven. So, and they deal with different things, so we'll have to look at that. Verses 9 and 10. Here is the mind which has wisdom. Here's the angel talking now. Here is the mind that has wisdom, and now he's explaining what that means. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sits. And before I go on any further, for years everybody said, well, that's got to be Rome, because Rome is known as the city of 7 hills. But then, the more research I did, I found out there's like about a half a dozen cities around the world that are called the city of 7 hills, okay? So maybe they are literal hills, or maybe these mountains represent different aspects of our life. Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly, but something to think about. There are also 7 kings, 5 have fallen, 1 is, and the other has not yet come. And when he comes, he must continue a short time. So now I put this picture up here. And when I put that picture up there, how do we categorize that picture? Yeah, but let's go back to our theology now. You have prophetic fact, you have prophetic theory, and you have prophetic speculation. And that's speculation because that would be likening the Bible with a current event, and that's something we can't prove. And I know it's not the G5 or the G7. What is it? Is it 5 or 7? 7. It's not. I know it's not the G7. Those are like the 7 most powerful leaders in the world, the G7. And a lot of people will tell you, oh, that's got to be the G7, okay? I don't think that's them, okay? But it's interesting. I stuck it up there just to get you thinking a little bit. Only those who possess spiritual and biblical discernment will understand what the angel says. The 7 heads of the beast are 7 mountains. There are also 7 kings which do not rule simultaneously. If they don't rule simultaneously, it couldn't be the G7, could it? Heads are leaders, and mountains are great leaders. So these mountains would actually be kings and their kingdoms. They do not all rule at the same time, but as 7, they are symbolically connected. The whore, again, Zoroastrianism, and that's what we talked about last week, the Mystery Babylon, temporarily rides or dominates them. These 7 kingdoms include Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, Rome, and revived Rome. Okay? Now, how do I know that? Does Daniel, in Daniel's dream, did he even mention Egypt? Did he even mention Assyria? No. Because that happened before Daniel. Daniel came in at Babylon. So Daniel mentions Babylon, Medo, Persia, Greece, Rome, revived Rome. He mentions the 5. But there were 2 before him, Egypt and Assyria. Okay? So that makes the 7. 5 have fallen, 1 is, and who's writing this book? John. And when was he living? During the Roman Empire. Here. 5 have fallen, 1 is, and the other has not yet come. That's where we're at. That's us, okay? And the beast that was and is not is himself also the 8th, and is of the 7, and is going to perdition. The wild beast, and we've seen a little horn, emerges with eyes like that of a man, and a mouth speaking great blasphemies, okay? So we know that he looks like a man. It's talking about the Antichrist, right? Looks like a man. He's got a mouth saying lots of bad things. Jingle bells, jingle bells. Oh. He will only rule for a short time because Jesus Christ will defeat him, and he and his followers will go to hell. Okay? So we know the end of the book. We know who wins. And hey, you know what? We're out of time. Let's do one more. No, let's not. Okay. Okay, we got to stop. Yep. Somebody. Oh, it's over here. Okay, you got the version. All right.